One of the things I do want to mention is Addison has high-functioning autism, which is something that he's had to work with his whole life, and that's one of the reasons he does have anxiety, speaking in front of people. And he's really made huge leaps and bounds. He still has a little bit of issue with reading people's faces and their body cues. And he sometimes has a hard time when he gets really excited about a topic, being able to step away from the topic. It's hard for him to, if it's something, especially like in science class, if they're talking about something that really excites him, he oftentimes will start talking about something, and the teacher generally will say, well, I have never thought of it from that perspective. And the teacher will find he gets caught up in the same discussion that Addison is having, and for a few minutes forgets the topic at hand. And then he has to draw not only Addison, but himself and the entire class back to the topic at hand. Because Addison is well-read when it comes to science. He loves anything by, what is his name?
Neil deGrasse Tyson?
Yeah, Neil deGrasse Tyson. And he's very mathematically gifted. He's very scientifically gifted. When he was quite young, first of all, when he was 4 years old, he spontaneously started to read. Did not read one day. Next day I brought home a new book, Dr. Seuss the Foot Book. And I went in to read him the bedtime story, and he said, let me read it. I thought, oh, this is so cute. He's going to read the pictures to me. And I handed it to him, and he read it word for word. I was floored. And I turned to him and I said, who read this to you before? He said, I've never seen it before. One day he couldn't read, and the next day he could. And then, the summer before he went to kindergarten, we had a friend of my daughter's act as his nanny for the summer. He had been going to preschool every summer before that, but I wanted him to have a chance before he went to school to just have a fun summer. So one of the things that Skylar would do is Skylar would take him to the library. And he became absolutely obsessed with Teddy Roosevelt. He learned everything he could about Teddy Roosevelt. And then once he had exhausted that, went to the rest of the presidents. Learned everything he could about all of the presidents of the United States. And could tell you any detail. When they were born, where they were born, who they were married to, whether they had kids, whether they had pets, how they died, when they died, at 5 years old. He went to kindergarten for his intake, where he was to meet with a teacher. I was to meet with the teacher, and he was to meet with the teacher alone. And she would do a quick math quiz with him and a quick reading quiz with him. And so she brought him in the other room, came back out, and she looked very confused. Sat down in front of me and sat there for a second, just kind of staring and tapping the table. And then she just turned and looked at me, and she said, he can read. I said, yeah, I know. She said, no, he can read. I'm not just talking about kindergarten stuff. She says, I started out with our usual text, and he read it. Then I handed him another book, and he read it. And then I handed him something for third graders, and he read it. Then I handed him something for sixth graders, and he read it. And I had nothing more that I could think of until I remembered I had a magazine in my bag. And I brought it out, and he read it. She said, he can read. I said, I know. And I explained to her how he had just spontaneously started to read at 4. And just would read everything he could get his hands on. And she said, well, there's going to be a bit of an issue. And I said, well, what's that? She says, well, when you're in kindergarten, you have book buddies, which are third graders that come down and help you learn how to read. So we're going to have to think about this. So what they ended up doing is there was a third grader that needed help with reading. And they paired Addison up with him. But they didn't pair him up telling the third grader that Addison was to help him. They didn't tell Addison that he was there to help the third grader. But they read together, and when the third grader, would be reading to him and would make a mistake, Addison would just gently correct him. And it really helped the both of them. And because it helped Addison to be able to help somebody else, but it also helped the other little boy to be with somebody who was willing to listen to him read and not get anxious when he made mistakes.
I'm also not that really accustomed to change. When something is to change, I would get extremely paranoid, thinking of how, like, not exactly, OMG, how could this happen? I just am like, okay, I don't know what to do at this point. And one of those extremely gigantic ones was when 2 or 3 years ago, I was in school one day. I usually stay after school for homework club. Mom came into the school, and I don't really like forms of change when it's a random thing and I hadn't been informed of that schedule change earlier in the day. And when Mom came into the school, she grabbed me and brought me to my grandparents. And I was there for 2 months when Mom was at Copley. She also had a lot of other problems, like she had abscesses that were sort of shielding the cancer, but it made it easier to detect. And I had no clue of this. And it would take another 6 months before I knew the real reason why I hadn't been in school for
3 months.
3 months. And that was when my sister, because I wasn't in school, I didn't have anything to do. And one day she brought me to Handy's Diner in Burlington. She asked me a few questions, and I had no clue why she was asking me these questions.
And this is Holly you're talking about.
Yes. And she was pretty much saying, do you know why Mom is at the hospital right now? And then I said, yeah, she's sick. And Holly was asking, like, do you know what she has? And I said, nope, I just know it's pretty serious. And then she sat down with me and explained the whole thing. And that's when that's the only time where I've had a change that I had no willingness to go into, but then I had a reason to do it that I was going to follow to the end. Once I knew the truth, I was able to understand and get into it and know how to help. I didn't care about myself as much as I cared about helping Mom.
He would come home from school, and it was right after I had chemo and I was fatigued. I would spend a couple of days pretty much in bed, get up to eat, get up to take care of basic things. But I was so fatigued just climbing the stairs. I would get to the top of the stairs and have to sit for 15 or 20 minutes. At this point, I also was dealing with embolisms in my lungs, which also makes it very difficult to do things like climb stairs. But Addison would come home from school, and I had an office chair in my bed, so he would pull the office chair up to the bed, and he would pull out his homework, and whatever he needed to do, he would finish. And he'd reach over every few minutes and pat me on the knee and say, you doing okay, Mama? Can I get you anything? Need a drink? And I'm sitting there thinking, this is a 12-year-old. It's a 12-year-old taking care of me. And so one of the reasons that I did initially have him start seeing Allie up to the hospital was because I was concerned that he felt it was his responsibility to be responsible for me. And I needed her to help him to understand his first job is to be a kid. And his second job is to take care of him. And his third job, if he can, is to do what he's doing with me. But the most important thing is you need to be a kid.